thank you so much for joining me for this session of yoga, of stretching, of strengthening, of paying attention to what's going on in your body and being kind and compassionate with yourself. So practicing that, reinforcing that into everything in your body, right? Infusing it into how you live your life. And you know that the practice, the reinforcement is what keeps you stronger, is what keeps you going. It's what helps to strengthen your container, right? Because you're the container and you're also what is contained within the container. So it helps both. So I do have a chair back there. You do not need to have a chair, but if you have a chair, something similar, not too fancy, a straight back chair, probably no arms. If you can find one, that's just a folding chair. And folding chairs do seem to work like the best as far as size for most people. I mean, they're not the sturdiest. There are yoga chairs you can buy. They're more expensive, and you just do whatever feels good to you. But we're going to do some stretches with it standing and seated on it. I wanted to grab my drink. I'm feeling a little hoarse. Do some balance work, and you don't need a chair to do some of the stuff. You can also just have a wall or another piece of sturdy furniture. The point is to have something that you can hold on to that can provide that support. And you're not even really holding on to it. You're just using it to help keep you up and aware and balanced. So find that comfortable seat. Doesn't matter what it looks like. I would definitely encourage you not to let your toes get tingly. So sit in a way that accommodates that. And you can let your eyes close, letting yourself start to come into the present moment, paying attention to yourself and trying to set aside the judge, the jury, and just be the benevolent witness to what is happening. You just need to be paying attention to your breath, staying aware of the in and out of your lungs. That in and out is the rhythm of the universe. That, along with the beating of your heart, is what helps to keep you connected to yourself, to your responsibilities, to your family, to your friends, to loved ones, to your community, to society as a whole. You're breathing through your nose or your mouth or a combination of your nose and mouth. And you're starting to build that 3-part yoga breath when it feels ready to you. So this is you filling up those lungs, and you're filling up the bottom third, then the middle third, then the upper third, and then release fully, upper, middle, lower. The more you sit and let the breath grow deeper and fuller, the more it smooths out. You're in charge of if the inhale is longer than the exhale. Staying with that awareness of your breath, right? If your toes are getting tingly, make sure you arrange yourself. And then And staying in that awareness of your breath and your body. On your next inhale, press yourself down into your mat. Feel yourself anchor in, root down into this place. And then on your exhale, stretch yourself up into space. Take up all of that room around you that you are supposed to take up. Paying attention, finding the space between your thoughts. It's a constant practice. The more you seek the space, the more you're just aware of what is. That is where the peace and the freedom lies. The in and out, the beating of your heart, the pressing down and the lifting up, all is going on at the same time. Stay aware of that. It is your superpower. I'll be bringing your awareness to it. That's my intention for you. For the class, you can bring the hands to your heart and you can take a moment to set a personal intention. You might be working on something that you are trying to have more of, or maybe less of, or a little bit of both. And then keeping those girdles engaged, so you're lifting your heart, pulling those blades down, keeping those shoulders engaged as you reach those arms up above your head. Gather up all that good juju, pull it right down into your heart center. A couple more times. Inhaling, exhaling, third time. And then you're going to unwind your legs. If you're sitting up on something, take a moment to move that. Let your legs unwind. Start maybe the windshield wiper back and forth. Also the stretch forward and the gentle ankle turn, the pointing and the flexing of the feet, the gentle shaking of the legs, the bouncing. Keep those knees nice and protected. When you feel complete, come back up into, and I am going to make my blanket different. There we go. So yeah, make sure you're always taking time to make yourself comfortable. This would be a really great place for blocks. So have them. We're gonna have them to the right. I've got them to the right. I'm gonna have my knees bent and then drop my knees over to the right. The right foot and the left knee are not stacked on top of each other. They're next to each other, and I'm trying to find, this was one of those poses that took me a long time to really put all the connections, how you're sitting on that sitting bone and you're trying to pull that opposite sitting bone down, and then you are having that solid base, and then you are winding around, not as far as you can go because it's still early and this is not that kind of class. I just want you to go a little bit to get that nice stretch. If you flex those feet and keep pressing down with your legs and your lower body in order to have that anchoring, and then you lift and lengthen with that upper and front body, inhaling and exhaling. So the sensation of always anchoring with your lower and your back, and always lifting with your front and your upper. Both of those things happening, all of those things happening, always at the same time. All right, now lift yourself up a little bit, and you might want to walk yourself, not be so twisted around, especially if you did go kind of far. I want you to be, somewhat comfortable. That right elbow can come down to the floor or the block. Stay lifted, and you're going to reach that left arm. So lift that heart, keep those girdles engaged. Keep trying to press that left glute down. That left arm is lifted, and then stretch. Inhaling, you're going to then stretch it up, and then exhale, tuck it and stretch through, and then lift. And so if you're down on the ground, you might need to come up a little bit. That's why I love blocks, even stacking a couple. And then you're going to pause, lift yourself up, take your time, come back into a neutral position where that engagement goes. You drop those legs side to side in order to reset, and then you bring yourself around to an opposite side. And so now the blocks are to the left, the knees are to the left, the right knee and the left foot are not stacked on top of each other, they're next to each other, flexing that left sitting bone, trying to stay lifted. Pulling yourself up on top of that takes a lot of awareness and a lot of energy. So if it feels weird, if you feel like you're always slumping down, I did for a long time, but now I'm lifted and I feel lifted, and it's just a matter of practice, right? Because that did not how I looked when I started. Keep pressing that right glute down so you keep that active lower body, so it's supporting you. And then you're going to bring yourself down, and you're going to come around as much as feels good. I do not want you to go so far that you are completely lost in sensation. I want you to just be in the sensation, breathing full and deep. Hopefully it's not too uncomfortable, but it's just hurt so good enough. And then if you did come around a little bit to the left a little bit more, then it feels comfortable when you bring that left elbow down and then lift that right side, getting that nice long stretch. Inhale and exhale. Keep that shoulder girdle engaged. Reaching that arm over your head if it would feel good. And then finally coming into the pull-throughs. This, I think, gives a wonderful stretch down the back, the obliques. Try to keep your neck nice and long, so you're always trying to lengthen, especially the back of your neck, keeping that chin tucked. Keep trying to pull the crown of your head to like where the wall and the ceiling meet, and then you're going to pause, bring yourself back to that upright position, and then once again do some sort of reset, dropping those knees side to side, doing a little bounce, a little circling of the ankles, whatever feels good to you, in order to get that blood flowing back into those deep nooks and crannies that don't typically get that blood flow. And the resting is just as important as the movement. It's all important. So we're going to come around and come onto those hands and knees, pressing yourself back into your child, having blocks to use to deepen the stretch, always an option. You're always in charge of the sensation. You are hinging over child legs. That's what this is. I know it's also, where you rest, but you're still holding yourself in your trunk, in your torso. The more you keep those girdles engaged, breathing full and deep, always bringing the back body down, always lifting the front body. Inhaling and exhaling, staying with your breath. And then lifting up into table. Make sure you've got cushion for your knees, especially if your knees get uncomfortable on the floor you're on, then bring them right underneath your shoulders. Knees right underneath your hips, hands right underneath your shoulders, spread those fingers wide, and don't hyperextend those elbows. And then you're going to tuck that tail a little bit. This is a teeny tiny move, and you are pulling the framework and the muscle down, the back body down, and lifting the front body into that place of support. That is the back body pulling down, the front body lifting up. Shoulders out of your ears, keep those blades engaged, and then pull them apart, and then pull them together a few times, like you're squeezing that grape, and then you're pulling apart so it is as smooth and flat as can get, and then hold it in that smooth and flat place, and then do your cat and cow right in the middle. Lift yourself up out of your limbs. Keep lifting that navel up into your body, and also then lifting up underneath your heart. Inhale and exhale. Your navel and your heart are basically stacked on top of each other. And then you're going to pause, breathing full and deep. Navel, ribs, chest. Exhale fully, chest, ribs, navel. Walking those knees as wide apart as feels good to completely come down and rest. Now, if you do feel sensation in your wrists, you're being very gentle. Inhaling and exhaling. Staying with that breath. And then up into your table position once again. Stay lifted, and those limbs right underneath your sockets, and then keeping that awareness of how you're lifting that navel and pulling that tail. So it's the navel and then dimples. The dimples are right above your bottom, right? So there's two little dimples back there. Think of that as your tail, and it is, right? And then it doesn't, move just on its own. You have to manipulate your body, right, in order to make that tail swish. So you're being careful with that low back. This exercise right here, make sure you've got room to press back, pressing that right heel back, keeping those hips nice and square. So you're really paying attention to that right leg, maybe taking a gander back at it to see what it is doing. I love to crack my joints. Press through your heel, keep those toes pointed, and then only if it feels good to you, lift that opposite limb. Inhale and exhale. So remember which limbs are moving. Mine is the right leg and the left arm, because we're going to come down and we're going to rest for a breath or two back in your child, breathing full and deep. Make sure you're taking drinks of water. Staying hydrated. And then up into that stable table. So that is pulling that back body down. That means pulling that tail down, pulling those blades down, pulling those blades apart, lifting that pelvis up a little bit. That navel comes up. That navel goes up into the heart. The heart lifts right underneath the chin. And then you are pressing back with that opposite, those opposite limbs that you worked before. So now the left leg is pressing back. I'm pressing through the heel. I've got that kneecap protected. Inhale and exhale. I'm keeping those hips nice and even. And then reaching that opposite limb, keeping those joints protected, not hyperextending that arm that I am holding up on. I'm lifting myself up off. It took a while to feel that. Inhale and exhale. And then once again, let yourself rest back completely. Taking a load off. Inhale and exhale. And then if you want to, hopefully your chair, as mine unfolds, but hopefully your chair can be moved and it is able to come then in front of you on the mat to then use it to step up. We can do a little modified downward dog. So coming with your hands on the edge and then stepping up and then walking yourself back, bringing that lower body higher than the upper body, keeping those shoulders engaged, keeping those knees bent, letting yourself move as much or as little as feels good. Find those balls, spread those toes and lift those digits. And this can add a lot to the shoulder, a lot of intensity. So make sure you protect yourself. And then you're going to make your way into that forward fold a little bit closer to the chair. Find the stance, the balls and the heels. So maybe reach more for the legs. You're in that hinge, inhaling and exhaling. And then once you feel steady and supported, putting that weight in that back body, you're going to lift up halfway into that flat back. Use the chair if that feels good to you. Exhale, reach back down. The girdles are engaged as I come down into that forward fold. I get this beautiful stretch down my back body. Inhale, halfway into that flat back. Exhale, down. And then we're going to come up a third time. And then hands are going to come to right above your knees. Stay with those bent knees. And then lift yourself up into awkward chair. And then press yourself up into standing. Pressing those feet into the ground. Those hands can reach down. Of course, if you would like to stretch into a back bend, keep the girdles engaged as you lift and reach. Only bending back as much as feels good, and then hands at your heart, or maybe your navel, or maybe one of each. But you're standing in mountain, so this is you pressing down into the floor with the balls and the heels, lifting your digits and spreading them as wide as you can and far away as you can for that gentle grip on the mat. If you learn anything, it's, for me, it's how not to use your toes. So your toes are just there to look pretty. Kneecaps up into those thighs, so there's always a nice soft bend, and then to protect the knee, and then you're dropping that framework, that tail, lifting that front body, so you are making that solid base, stiff as a board, navel dimples down, and then light as a feather, navel dimples up, lift that heart. It's just like it's floating, your heart floating right above your navel. Pull those blades down, keep pressing the crown of your head up to the sky, and you are in mountain. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. And then I'm going to turn the chair so the back is what I'm going to reach for this next set of exercises, this next set of stretches. And so standing on your mat with the chair in front of you, and yeah, once again, you don't have to have the chair to do this stretch. We're doing a pyramid stretch. It's just the chair just adds that nice assist, and you get that little bit more. And but you're always protecting yourself. So start. You can't quite touch it. I want you to be a little further back from the chair than being able to touch it to start with. And maybe even just a little bit further back than you think, but you're always the one that's going to be able to make the call. I want you to put the weight into both legs and sit back just a little bit. Feel the weight in both legs. Keep feeling the weight in both legs as you just step that right foot forward just one step, and you are still finding yourself even between the right and the left leg, staying aware of how those hips are always pulling now towards, you're trying to scissor them right back, left forward, keep those knees nice and bent and so soft. And then here's where you're going to reach for the chair. And so this is where you can see how keeping you're going to maybe bring your head down in between the chair, but if you're too close, you're going to hit it. So be careful here that you don't hit your head, and let yourself come into that stretch. And so you might be able to like jimmy the chair a little bit further. I've got both girdles engaged. I'm lifting that navel, lifting that heart, keeping those hips nice and square. And this just adds, the chair just adds like an extra stretch. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. Keep pressing evenly through both legs. Keep those knees nice and soft and protected. And then let yourself lift up into an upright position. Remember which leg is forward. I walk forward with my right. I'm going to step that left foot forward and just take a moment and notice how I feel standing on both legs. If you held any of that and then went into that stretch, hopefully you can feel like one leg maybe feels a little bit longer than the other. So this is where you want to be back a little bit. You don't want to be right on top of the chair to start with, because depending on how tall you are and how long your stance is, and this is where you have to be careful, like don't make it so far where you're putting all your weight on your front leg, but don't make it so close that all your weight's on your back leg. You want to have that step forward. I'm now step forward with that left, keeping those hips square. So that means pulling, it's scissoring, it's pulling the left back and the right forward, and then keeping that girdle, especially that shoulder girdle, engaged so I protect it. I'm going to reach forward as I come into the great big flat back pyramid stretch. Inhale and exhale. Keep bringing all 10 toes to face the short edge of your space. Inhale and exhale. Breathing full and deep. Stay here. You're in charge of the sensation. And then let yourself lift, coming to stand on both legs evenly underneath your hips, breathing full and deep, navel, ribs, chest, exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. And so keeping that back or standing near another piece of furniture or a wall in order to have that support. I'm going to stand with the support on my right side, and we're going to do just a few different sorts of squats, and you're always going to be protecting your knees and your ankles. These are just going to be a little bit different than how we typically do them. or how maybe you typically see them. So be aware of your joint. So turning that left foot out a little bit, let that right foot come forward. You also turn it out a little bit so you are standing evenly on both feet. Those knees are opening towards the side and you are coming down right in the middle. And so this is where, depending on how it feels in your knees, you might need to go wider apart. Inhale and exhale, maybe closer together. It really just depends on what works best for you. Maybe somewhere kind of in between. Inhale and exhale, up and down. And then so that we're going to pause, that right leg was in front, you're going to bring it back and you're going to be back into that neutral position and then turn those toes out on that left leg and step it forward. Turn the toes out on the right leg and you're even in between. Now you then might need to arrange, keeping those kneecaps pulled up into those thighs as you lower and lift yourself in between those legs. So the knees are going out. But if this hurts your knees, right, then come into like maybe this position where you bring the heels together, which is where we're going next. Maybe I should have started with that. Next time I do that, I will do that. Bring yourself back into that standing mountain position. So this is you. You're rotating. So when you turn the leg out, when you turn the toes out, you're rotating at your hip socket, and that's what we're practicing. But it can put a strain on your knees just depending on how flexible you are. So you're always protecting yourself. That's why keep those kneecaps pulled up into your thighs. Turn those toes out. So that means you turn that whole leg out. That includes your knees and your toes, and then make sure you've got that support. You are lowering and lifting a few times down in between those legs. And your heels, if they're not touching, they're relatively close. Breathing full and deep, because the next place we're going after you do one more is you're going to pause, and then you're going to let your legs come a little bit wider. You always want to have control of your legs, so make sure you always feel in control. You still feel the same amount of effort and energy into both legs, and then you are going to lower and lift. Keep pulling that tail down. Keep lifting those hip flexors. It took a while here for me to get that connection. You really have to practice it. Inhale and exhale. And then you're going to pause, bring those legs back together. Notice how you feel, breathing full and deep. Navel, ribs, chest. Exhale fully, chest, ribs, navel. Stay with your breath. Keep that support close to you. You've got both feet on the ground. So I've got it to the right of me. I'm going to keep that right leg on the ground. To start with, I'm going to keep the weight in my lower trunk as I bend that left knee as high up as I can, and then open to the side, and then pull it back and bring it back down to stand on both, and then same thing. So one leg, the right leg, is stabilizing you, and the left leg is mobile. You're keeping that right kneecap pulled up into your thigh. Inhale and exhale. The next time you open, if you want to bring that leg anywhere on that foot, anywhere on that leg, to come into any sort of pigeon posture, you're either resting the foot above or below the knee. Inhale and exhale. You can lift your arms if it would feel good, breathing full and deep. And then eventually you're going to release. Bring that leg down next to the other and take a breath or two, depending on whatever you're using. I am going to just move it, shift it to the other side. I'm going to get a quick drink. Having that support now on the left side, left leg is nice and supported with that kneecap pulled up into the thigh, and then I lift that right leg and pull out, and then bring it up, and then bring it down just a few times. Inhaling and exhaling. And then the next time you bring it out, if you want to practice, and sometimes you have to reach and bring it to come into your tree posture. And so the leg that you're standing on is solid. The leg that gets bent is solid. You're putting the same amount of weight in that lower glute, in those glutes, and you're lifting that pelvis up in order to help keep you lifted. And then let yourself come into standing on two legs, breathing full and deep. Navel, ribs, chest, exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. Have that support near you. You can also have it where you're in front of it. We're going to be in that mountain pose, feet right underneath those hips, and then sit back in your awkward chair. Inhale and exhale, lift so you're still in your awkward chair, but you've lifted up off your heels. Inhale and exhale, stay lifted off your heels, and lift and lower your whole self. Inhale and exhale. So you're not using the toes, you're using the balls. All right, pause. You're down in your awkward chair with lifted heels. Drop those heels. Drop a little bit further in that awkward chair, and then lift yourself all the way up to standing and receive. And then bring the heels together, toes out again, and then like zipping up your legs. If you take in Pilates, they talk about that a lot. I'm coming up onto the balls, the heels are lifted, and then it's lower and lift the whole self, not the toes. The toes aren't doing any work. It's all balls. Inhale and exhale. I love this balance work. It's so good. That's why even if you don't have good balance, use that support. Use that assist. And then you're going to pause back with your legs in mountain, and then bring that chair, and you can bring yourself so you sit in that chair, finding that nice comfortable seat, starting with, hopefully you can get your whole foot down on the ground just like you would if you were, and if you have to be a little bit away from the back, that's okay, because you want to be a little bit away from the back anyway. You want to have a little bit of room. Hands can be on your knees, and you're going to lift that heart on an inhale, exhale, round. So it's just a few little seated cat and cows. Inhale and exhaling. Let that heart rate come down, breathing full and deep. Navel, ribs, chest. Exhale fully, chest, ribs, navel. And then after a few, you're going to feel complete. Just have a couple breaths. Seated in that neutral position, keeping that awareness on lifting that front body and bearing down with that back body. And you can feel both feet, balls, and heels on the floor. Now we're going to reach up above the head on an inhale, exhale. Twist to one side and maybe gently reach behind you. Try not to pound your arm on that back, and you're twisting side to side, lifting and twisting. And then pause, looking over one shoulder. It doesn't have to be a great big stretch. Inhaling and exhaling. And then let yourself come back through center and pause on the other side. Breathing full and deep, and then you're going to unwind and just take a couple breaths. So if you are really far back on the chair, you're going to want to come just a little bit forward so you can feel yourself. The foot, the legs are supporting you even though you're seated, right? You've got your legs right underneath you. It's just so you've got a place for, so that, things don't collapse. If it's comfortable, pull that right ankle on top of that left knee, and this is where you can play around with being on that chair. You want to keep, now if your right knee is way up here, that's okay. Keep trying to press it down and away, and it will, maybe not today, get down, but eventually it potentially will get down. And then if you want to lean over that bent right leg, so this seated pigeon posture, breathing full and deep, navel, ribs, chest. I've still got the ball of my foot and not my toes doing the work on the left side. Inhaling and exhaling. Your hands can come to your heart. You can rest them gently on that leg. And then lift yourself, take your time. You're gonna uncross the legs, maybe do some sort of windshield wiper move, maybe a little march, and then make sure you feel comfortable. Bring that other leg on top. And so now you're in that pigeon posture on the opposite side. So press through both heels so you are in that engaged position, only coming forward. And when you come forward, at least for me, it adds so much more intensity there on that left side, the bent side. So breathe deep and full. I love these seated pigeons. You can do this, pretty much anywhere, at your desk at work or your desk at home, or while you're sitting at the dinner table. Inhaling and exhaling, stay with your breath, and then let yourself lift up. And then once again, drop those knees side to side. Do a few little marches side to side. Just take a couple moments seated, breathing full and deep, navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. Of course, you can do whatever else feels good in order to complete your practice. I'm going to show you, if you've got time, even 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, in order to have that time of ultimate relaxation where you rest in that shavasana, whether it be on your back or seated in meditation. And I'm also going to show you, I just rolled this blanket up, and then I'm going to put it around, and this right here, and then coming back right here, because it holds your neck. This position is actually super comfortable. So and I think you can even do it so the way you fold the blanket, so it's like a little bit, maybe like it's longer, and so you've got it, the weight of your arms helps to keep you, and then, oh my God, I could just fall asleep right here. So try that sometime. And if you meditate on the regular, even seated and on the floor, this is an amazing way to help stay in that awareness of your body, and also the ultimate comfort. So thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully you're staying safe and healthy, and you're taking care of yourself. And if you're doing yoga, you are definitely taking care of yourself. So until next time, namaste. Take care. Bye.